everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing an interview with my friend Steve over from Raiken Profit .com. How you doing, Steve?
Fantastic, man. I'm pumped up to be able to talk to your audience and looking forward to chat some more. I had you on my channel recently and you dropped a ton of knowledge, man. I don't know what's going to go down on this call. I don't know if you could beat that out, but I'm pumped up to chat, man.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you here. You have a business model that's pretty different from what my audience is, used to. So I'm excited to dive into that and then just talk about all your experience.
Let's get into it, man.
Yeah. So start us off. Tell us like kind of your background and how you got into Amazon.
Yeah, so I started actually flipping bicycles on Craigslist back in 2013. I had found a YouTube video of this guy, this big jacked Asian guy named the Bonafide Hustler. I don't know if you ever saw his videos, but I was working at the Cracker Barrel at the time and going to school. I was in college. I was going to be an X-ray technician. Actually didn't want to do that, but I came from a background where I was getting in trouble, ended up in jail when I was 18, just doing a lot of crazy things. Actually, no, I was 21 years old. And, I was just trying to prove to people around me and my family that, I could make something of myself. So I was working, a crappy little job, going to school, and I was miserable because I've always been a hustler. Like I said, I got in trouble when I was younger, back when the whole marijuana thing was like a big deal. So I was actually selling, got caught, got raided, got taken out. Like it was bad. And back then, like now it's like legal everywhere. Yeah, that like messed up my life for a while. So I was trying to fix my life, make something of myself, but I was miserable because I had flipped baseball cards, Pokemon cards. Like I was always hustling. And I just got to the point where I'm like, I'm sick and tired of like doing everything for everybody else. I'm working at the Cracker Barrel, wearing this little apron. I got 2 stars. I'm serving biscuits to people. I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, this is crazy. Like I've always been a very creative person. I haven't always been the smartest, brightest bull, but I've always been able to like find ways to make money and be creative and always been good with people and stuff. And I'm like, man, I got to find a way to make money. So I was just looking online, watching videos, found this guy, Bonafide Hustler, pretty much started stalking him on Facebook and hitting him up every day. Like, hey man, like, is this bike good? Is this Trek bike? Is this Cannondale bike any good? Long story short, I ended up flipping about $20,000 worth of bicycles that summer in Connecticut where I live. And when winter time hit, nobody was selling bikes anymore. You know how it is out here on the East Coast. It gets cold. No one's riding bikes. And I was like, I got to figure out a way to make money. So what did I do? Went back to the drawing board on YouTube, studied, and found out that there was this whole world of people selling on eBay. And Amazon wasn't really popular in like 2014. Like it was, I think it was around when, since like 2011 or so, but it was so new that like there was like nobody on YouTube even talking about eBay. Like there was definitely not anybody on Amazon, maybe 1 or 2. Like, and I know it's hard to believe because now everybody and their mom, including my mom, is on Instagram and YouTube and everything. But I started selling on eBay and I started flipping clothing from thrift stores. Ended up building my business to about $6,000 to $8,000 a month, which to me, I might as well have been a millionaire. And did that for a while, started my YouTube channel. And then I learned about Amazon. And man, you were probably like in your diapers still when I started back then. No, all jokes aside, when I started Amazon, there was no Amazon seller app. There was no Scout IQ. There was no, seller app. At least I've never heard of it back then. I used to use this little PDA device called a Dell Axum 51 with this little laser that you would have to stick on top, and you'd have to plug it into your computer and download the database and go out and scan with it. Yeah, like nothing. It was like a weird little world back then, but that's how I first learned about Amazon and started selling, doing RA. And since then, I've been hooked now. Over the last year, I've been focusing on eBay to Amazon flips. We also buy from Facebook Marketplace, Mercari. Started the year, I was doing around $5,000 a month, just thrifting, selling books. I was mostly doing eBay at the time. And now I built my business up to $30,000 a month. Goals to get to 40K within the next couple months. But even though that number might not seem very impressive to a lot of people doing the traditional, Nike, Lego, OA method, my margins are very high. A lot of the items we source are like 50 to 60% ROI. My profit margins are around 40% at the end of the day. So awesome. It's a really interesting, unique business model. There's risks involved, which we'll definitely talk about. But my account health is very healthy. Haven't had any issues. Only 1 IP complaint, which got resolved in a day. So that's a little background, man. Sorry, that was a little long-winded.
Yeah. No, thanks for that introduction. Yeah, I'd love to talk more about your business model because like I said, a lot of my audience isn't going to be super familiar with that. So let's talk about like how you find those products from eBay, Mercari, Facebook Marketplace, and then also like the different risks that are associated with doing something like that.
Got you. So we have a whole plethora of ways that we source. We do use a couple techniques with tactical arbitrage to reverse source. We have a few other little secret softwares that we've discovered over the years. But one of the easiest ways for anybody to get started doing eBay to Amazon flips, if you're already an Amazon seller, and let's just say you have, a bunch of data where you've sold a bunch of items already, RA or OA, literally all you have to do is download your business reports of all the items you've sold and maybe just filter it for items that have sold maybe over 40 or 50 bucks. Because if it's sold for 40 or 50 bucks, it could be a little higher, it could be similar, but that's enough where you can maybe go on eBay and source that for $8, $10, $12. Most of our sourcing is done now just based on our previous data. We have a spreadsheet of over almost 4,000 unique items that we've sold over just the last couple of years. And what we do is we have a replenishable sheet that shares what items are active, how many we have in inventory, which ones we have zero of. In our business, it's very different than what you're doing. We have tons of various ASINs. Like right now we have, in my business, we have about 2,000 items in stock, and it's about like 1,900 unique ASIN. And when I buy two of an item, I am going deep, Logan. I am going deep on that product. So we have so much data now that we literally just go and reverse source it every single day. And if you're new and you're like, well, Steve, Logan, I don't have a bunch of data, I'm new, the best advice is to go to eBay, go under sold listings, and go back maybe about a month and a half or so, and then filter out every item within a category, like maybe DVDs. I'm big into DVDs. Filter the category by DVDs that sold for over $50. Because if it sold for over 50 bucks on eBay new, it's probably selling for 70 or 80 on Amazon because of that. Just the arbitrage between the two, people pay more. And now just build a gigantic list. That's how I started. I built a list of like 200 or 300 different items, board games, DVDs, video games, electronics, household items. Like you could do this for every category. And then I just went and reverse sourced them. And over time, it was a pain in the butt in the beginning, but over time I had more and more and more data to now where my team, we buy about 50 to 60 items every single day. And last month I posted on my Instagram, I think we spent almost 15,000 off of eBay, Facebook. Yeah, it's growing.
Yeah, that's a really big tip. I tell people all the time, like you can look at the Keepa and all the other data all day long, and you definitely should. But at the end of the day, the best data to look at is going to be your own. So you touched on like how you have all this different data, and now you can go back and look at those products. I tell people use that as a way to be able to replenish your OA products for someone running a business like mine. Look at that to be able to judge how many you should buy in the future. Because Keepa might show like 30 drops in a month, but your data might show that you can sell 30 units in a day or whatever. It might not be that big of a difference, but the point I'm trying to make is look at your own sell-through rate and look at your own data that you've been able to compile for your business.
Yeah, it's a cheat sheet. The more you sell, the more data you have. I mean, Keepa isn't always 100% accurate. And, there's some long tail. Like I'll just share an example. There's a DVD that I sell. It sells about once or twice a month. It's nothing special. They sell on eBay all day long for about 15 bucks. The rank is always between 100 to 150,000, which is really slow. It only is estimating like one sale every couple of months, but it sells once or twice a month. And every time we sell it, we make like 35 bucks, 40 bucks profit. And it's, you're not getting rich off of it. But if I was just to look at the Keepa chart and what SellerAmp was telling me, I probably would be a little iffy about it. So one thing you want to do in your business is a certain percentage of your buy should be test orders. You're just testing things out to see, and you're weighing out your risk versus reward. Worst comes to worst, I break even. Best case scenario, I make 20, 30, 40%. And this is a little secret. And, in my business, we have hundreds of those just because of the nature of the category I'm in.
Awesome. So I'm curious, like, what does the sell-through rate look like on that type of items you're starting to, or that you're focusing on? Like, are they more long tail or do you prefer the fast flips?
So in the beginning, my sell-through rate was around 30%. And coming from the thrifting world, I tell people all the time, your audience is probably going to laugh, but I was in business for over 6 years, and like someone had asked me on a podcast, like, what do you pay yourself, Steve? And I'm like, what do you mean? I pay myself everything. Like money just comes in and I keep it all. Like, because when you're thrifting, dude, it's all profit for the most part. Like when you move into OA and more advanced RA methods, of course, Amazon's going to take 35, 40%. But when you're thrifting, like your cost of goods is like 5 or 10%. It's nothing. But once you start getting into OA, now it's 30, 40%, sometimes more. So you're not really left with much. So that was a skill that I really had to build, was how to pay myself and how to deal with that. In the beginning, it was 30%, and I started having cash flow issues because my items weren't turning over. So really over the last 4 months, I've gotten a lot more picky in terms of how many sales per month Seller Amp is showing, very picky about Keepa and making sure we're studying the buy box, staying off Amazon listings. But now it's actually 50% on the dot,
Wow.
50% per month. So I actually have 1,700 like fully active right now. I'm going to have like 2,000 once everything checks in. And over the last month, I've sold about 850 items. So I know it's not like a perfect, I'm not sure how you calculate your sell-through rate, but for me, I do it like just a little gangster. It's like, how much have I sold and how much is like active? And that's just like my estimate. I don't know if you have any tips for.
Yeah, I mean, for our sell-through metrics, we're just looking at the metrics that Amazon's providing to us. So the two that we look at are daily sell-through rate and the inventory turnover. It's in your inventory dashboard, and it's a number of how many times you cycle through your inventory in a year. I looked at mine just yesterday, and mine's pretty high. My daily sell-through rate is about 5%, and then my inventory turn was like a little over 14. So that means I'm selling through my entire inventory 14 times a year, or roughly every 3 weeks. So ours is
Interesting.
pretty fast, yeah.
So how do you find the inventory turnover per day? You said, was that just like,
Inventory sell-through rate per day is in it's as part of your IPI calculation. So it's in the sell-through rate, and it'll say a number. Like mine was 5.1, I believe, and that means I sell through 5.1% of my inventory every single day.
interesting. Do you think that would still apply for my business? Because most of our items are like, I have one of it. And when it sells out, then I
Yeah.
replenish it, because the items I go after, like back to what you were saying, they're like not nearly as close to fast selling as your stuff. Like if I buy a DVD and it has 8 sales a month, like that's high. Like that's like average, like high for me. Like if it has like 15 sales a month, that's like, baby, this thing's going to move in 30 days. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Would that still be applicable, you think?
I mean, the data's probably still there for you to look at. I don't know, if it's as important. I would probably be leaning more towards the yearly sell-through, yearly inventory turnover, just to see like how fast is your entire inventory turning.
And where do you find that number for the yearly? Is that the same place under the
So it's
IPI?
the same place. I think it's called inventory dashboard. Whenever you go to look at your IPI score, there's a section that says dashboard. And then you
Okay.
go to that and it'll show you your yearly sell-through rate.
All right, I'll do that after this video. Do you think the way that I'm doing it is wrong, or what's the down? It probably just isn't as accurate, right?
Yeah, it's just a different metric. I don't think it's a bad way to do it. Yeah, if you're looking at like a monthly percentage, it's essentially the same thing, just looking at it with a little bit of a different perspective.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for the tip.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm curious what your day-to-day looks like. I know you mentioned you're only really working like 5 to 8 hours a week. So I'm curious, what are those hours spent on? And then how were you able to get it down to where your business runs with you only working a few hours a week?
Yeah, so I have 2 full-time virtual assistants, really like 1.5, because the other girl, she does like repricing. She'll do like all types of weird activities for me that I need. You know how there's just a million random
Yep.
things that need to be done. So they source for me fully. They source all the leads, they track all the leads, and they even buy all the leads for me, because it's much easier on eBay because my credit card's already logged in and it only shows the last 4 digits. So there's really no risk. When you were on my channel, we talked about how it's important to not only train and build SOPs, but have a feedback loop. And that took 5 months of a feedback loop of like having them like do scenarios where they would buy, but they wouldn't finally buy. And I would give feedback like why this is good, why this isn't. Like I ran like through hundreds of examples. So in terms of day to day, they source Monday through Saturday. They're typically sourcing between 40 and 70 leads. It just depends if there's 1 or 2 people working. Each day I have a girl who sends me over everything in terms of the metrics. So how much did we source? How much did we spend? Average, the sales for the day, the average selling price, a whole, plethora of numbers and whatnot. So on a day to day, there really isn't much but a couple messages back and forth. In terms of actual work that I'm doing, the way it works is all the items, and you're probably going to laugh, but I do this for a reason. All the items we purchase, they show up at my door. So you've got to believe that the mailman is just absolutely in love with me. It's funny. Sometimes I put like Instagram stories on my IG, and it's like the mailman's got like a whole thing of like, and I'm just like, oh my God. I used to have to open up all the packages, which would take like hours to do, because opening up packages from eBay sellers is like, you're like going to the circus. You don't know what is going to happen. Right now, I put my girlfriend to work because she wants to make a little extra cash. So really, she just comes over. We don't live together. She comes over once a week for about 5 to 7 hours and opens up all the packages and puts them together really nicely. We actually came over yesterday, so that's a lot of DVDs just for one shipment. We usually ship out like 5 to 7 shipments per week. So she organizes them into batches because we ship out batches one at a time. And this is interesting. I haven't heard of anyone doing this besides me, but what I do is I actually put a batch together, make sure it fits in a box. And she takes a picture of the front and the back of the item and goes through the whole process. It takes her about 5 to 7 minutes per shipment. She drops all the pictures into a Google Drive. Maybe we'll name it batch 62. And then our virtual assistant will list all of our items in Exceller list. So they're trained to list based on the condition, the price. If it's a new or a used item, we have like these little cards that will say, if we take a picture and there's no card, it just assumes it's new. But say it's like used good or used very good, we have a little card that says used new, used very good, and we'll put it in the picture so they know how to classify the condition. Then we just have templates. So that saves us a lot of time, because for me, it was like, close to a good hour per batch to have to list it. And I'm ADD, so I don't want to sit there all day long listing it. So we go through that process, and then our team overnight, they'll list everything for us on Exceller list. And all I really do is I just double check their pricing, which takes maybe 20 minutes. And then I just print out the labels, sticker everything, print out the label for UPS, and ship it out. So in terms of like real work, in terms of like sourcing, listing, shipping, I don't really do much with the sourcing. I really don't do much with the listing at all. Like I'm not even opening packages or really taking pictures or dealing with the Google Drive now. I'm just helping with the shipping. Most of my time is just learning about new things. Like I implemented a new repricer recently, hired a new person to help with stranded inventory. I'm learning about wholesale now. So I kind of got that all into the mix in terms of my time spent, but real time is probably like 3 to 5 hours a week, just like shipping and communicating with the team.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really cool, that system that you shared. That sounds like it could really be a big time saver, being able to have a VA do the listing for you. I'm curious, like, what was the process behind building that system? And, maybe did you do some experimenting with other things? And how did you really just like fine tune that?
Dude, to be honest with you, and I share this with a lot of my close friends, it's like, I am not the brightest bulb. Like I'm actually a complete idiot most of the time. Like I will do something the most inefficient way for the longest time possible until I hit rock bottom. It's like I'll binge eat every night until I gain 25 pounds. And I'm like, okay, it's time to get the kangaroo pouch off. It happened in my business where I'm like, what the heck am I doing? I'm sitting here freaking listing books and pricing books. I'm like, this isn't that hard. We all have an ego, like we're so smart and we're so special, but we're really not. Like anybody can do what we do. Like I think higher level activities do take a special skill, but like listing a book, conditioning a book, opening packages, pricing it, like anybody could read a Keepa chart if you learn like 27 different things, like it takes time. But it got to the point where I'm like, it was funny. One day I'm like sitting there on the floor, like right over here, like doing what I'm doing. Like, and I'm just like, why don't I just like train my team to do it? And like, for some reason I had this limiting belief. You ever have it happen, Logan, where you like, one day it just hits you like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And
sure.
It's like my brain, it was like, they say Mozart, he didn't even write his own music. It just came to him. It just came to me. And it's like, why don't I just train someone to do this? And I did it. And all jokes aside, it was the best decision ever. In terms of how I trained them and whatnot, it was just like, again, the feedback process. I created a video, showed them how I wanted to do it. They did it the first time the wrong way. Then the second time they did it 50% correct. Then the third time they did it 80% correct. And then after 7 feedback loops, they finally got it. And then for about a month and a half, I would really spend an extra 10, 20 minutes every time to double check everything. I would fix this, check it again. It would be less and less. And I mean, that's just the process.
Yeah. And it's really important to be giving that feedback, like you said. And anyone who's trying to outsource any aspect of the business, sourcing, shipping, developing your own system, whatever it is, it's really important to be giving that constant feedback to your team and understand that it takes time. You said 7 feedback loops or whatever it was. It's important to know that like it's not going to happen overnight. They're not going to get everything right on that first try. You need to be willing to give the constant feedback and give it time for them to grow and develop.
Yeah. And one more thing I'd like to mention too, not to go too far down the rabbit hole, is even after 7, they're still going to make mistakes. Because how many times in your business, after doing something 80 times, you made a dumb mistake? So one of the things I always try to work on, and I'm not the best at it, is like just not beating people up. You know what I mean? Like it sucks when they make a mistake and it costs you $100. Actually, an example was when we implemented Be Cool recently. One of my girls who I was training, after I trained her for a long time, priced an item. Instead of pricing it at 110, she priced it at 11 and it like sold out instantly. Like I tried to like cancel it, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to hurt my metrics. It is what it is. Like it's part of the game. But I mean, we've all done things like that. So virtual assistants are people just like you and I, and you actually can hurt their feelings. And I've actually found in the Philippines, they're much more sensitive than in the United States. It's like in the US, everyone just trash talks each other and we're so used to it. But people in the Philippines where I work with, they're actually some of the sweetest, kindest people. And you have to be a bit more gentle, I've noticed.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that as well. So it sounds like you have a really good, distribution system set up, but I'm curious, why are you not using a prep center?
Yeah, so I deal with mostly DVDs as like a big part of my business. And I've just noticed that there's just a lot of fakes. There's a lot of counterfeits. And I noticed even outside of DVDs, like dealing with video games, board games, like even traditional items you would go after, eBay sellers are really sketchy, a lot of them. And when I say a lot, it's like 10%, but that you can really get kicked off, suspended quickly with, an inauthentic claim or a customer complaint, IP complaints, different things. That's a different story, which we'll talk about. I don't trust a prep center. I know there's probably prep centers that would do a good job, but I think I'm just a little too nervous about it, and I'm not spending that much time. Plus it's good content for my channel, and I like to be like in the loop. I don't ever want to get to the point, especially having like a following and everything, where I'm so disconnected. I kind of like being a part of it. So it's probably not the smartest move. I don't know. It works for me.
Yeah, it's good. A lot of people will preach, prep center, but at the end of the day, find what works for you. Yeah, it's super important. One thing that I really love about your story is that you got Mama Profit, being able to help your mom start on Amazon. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So my mom, she's 68 years old. She started when she was 60 years old. When I first started learning I was doing retail arbitrage and whatnot. And I used to go thrifting for eBay. And she used to always come out with me and, she'd be buying glassware and household items for the home and whatnot. And eventually she was like, this is like when the Amazon seller app finally came out. She just thought it was fascinating that you can literally just like pull out your phone and like scan a barcode and it'll tell you how much money it's worth. That's why she didn't want to do eBay, Logan, because it was so much work. You have to take pictures and hold it at your house and list it and keywords. And I mean, I'm sure there's some 60, 70-year-old folks out there who are, 100 times smarter than you and I, but I don't know. I would just say the average person doesn't want to have to do all that work. And I don't know, my mom was like fascinated by it and she got hooked and I taught her and she's ran with it, man. She's never taken a day off. I mean, like in terms of like, oh, I stopped selling for a month. She's been going at it for 8 years straight. And she does around 3,000 to 5,000 a month, which only comes out to about 1,000 to 2,000 profit. But Social Security only pays her like 700 a month. So she's able to, make a decent living instead of having to go work at Walmart or Barnes and Noble. She has the freedom. Her and I, we go on thrifting trips to Rhode Island, typically once or twice a year. We have one coming up soon, hopefully. And man, it's brought our family together as well.
That's awesome.
So yeah, she's always messaging me, man. Like my phone's on do not disturb, but I bet you when it turns off, I'm going to get a text because she always goes to Savers thrift store at this time. She's going to show me all of her finds. So
that's awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Cool. Well, last thing I want to touch on is you've obviously been really successful at, building a personal brand. I think you have 180,000 on YouTube and a little over 100 on Instagram. I'm sure you're on other platforms as well. And even while my audience is pretty small, I've seen a lot of benefits from teaching others and being able to network, build community, being able to partner with people, just bounce ideas. And then obviously, long term, there's a good like monetization aspect to that as well. So I'm curious why you started building a personal brand, why you're continuing to do that, and then any tips and how you could give to someone looking to get started.
Absolutely. Yeah. I honestly, I started back in 2013-ish. I don't know. You guys can check my channel. It's somewhere 2012, 2013, just because I was so grateful to learn from the bona fide hustler, the big jacked Asian guy who was flipping bicycles, and I stalked him on Facebook and learned how to do it and stuff. Like I was so grateful and like, I was proud of myself. Like, to be honest, like it was probably my ego. Like I want to show off the things I'm finding and stuff. So that was really the only reason I started, to be honest. It was probably ego. And then I started to realize, wow, like I'm helping people with my content because I was talking about bicycles and clothes. And again, who knows? It was probably my ego getting more pumped up, but I loved helping people. And then I started to notice this funny thing would happen. I was able to gain instant credibility because people had watched my videos. I had helped them in one form or another. Even if I just helped them make $5, it gained instant credibility and people would share tips with me. They would, I'd see them at the thrift store and it was like we were friends, but we didn't even know each other. So that's initially why I started. And then I realized, holy crap, you could actually make money from this. And it's actually been very lucrative as you grow. Google AdSense pays pretty well. On YouTube, you can make money just recommending products. Like, for example, you've got the Seller Amp shirt on. I know right there you're doing it for free because I don't think anyone could click an affiliate link on your t-shirt. But, you can share and help people and say, hey, I went through this course, I went through this training, or I used this Bluetooth scanner. And it's not even like you're being sleazy and pitching people. You're just sharing with others what works. And if someone buys an item through your link or training or something, you can make really good money. Companies will reach out to you for sponsorships, which again, if you believe in the company, could help your viewers and help you get paid. So, I mean, it's very lucrative. It's fun, but I would say the biggest thing now for me is the networking aspect. I'm starting to really build my business, from 6 and I want to move into 7. The networking's huge, man, because linking up with people like you, Miles, Romer the Romer, Amazon Lit, Watch Me Amazon. It's like, what do you think Amazon Lit, who did $40 million in the last 12 months, would charge you to sit down for an hour? Like, what do you think his time is worth? Like, would it be unfair to charge you $1,000? The average person would be like, no, but like, why would he? Like, I could leverage my YouTube channel just to talk to him for an hour and help people and get paid. So yeah, it's a long-winded response, man, but it's like, there's too many upsides to it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of people, get caught up in like the paralysis of what are people going to think of me or things like that. And I know for me, when I started my YouTube channel, I was doing retail arbitrage and it felt like really uncomfortable to be in a store, like recording. But my advice is just press record. Most people don't care. They're concerned with themselves and they might be judging a little bit, but just get over it. The upsides are way more. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, I used to worry about people at thrift stores and everything. I would hide if there was a worker or a customer. I would hide my phone and like turn my back. Times changed a lot, but yeah, man, I feel you, dude. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, well, where can people find you on social?
Yeah, so they could find me on OnlyFans. No, I'm just kidding. They could find me on YouTube, Raiken Profit, Instagram, TikTok, all over the place, man. And I'm here to help and share the wealth with everyone. There's plenty to go around. All you need is a piece of the Amazon pie. It's crazy how big that pie has gotten.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for coming on, sharing your time and expertise.
All right. Appreciate you, Logan. Thank you.
Yep. See ya.
Bye.